Claiming of China, the border, so-called border, is totally illegal. The releasing of recently they released a map saying that Arunachal and Ladakh and Sejin are their territory. That is totally illegal. It should be condemned by every person who loves the respect to the human rights, because there was no single inch of border between the India and China before 1959, and it so-called border is Tibetan India. So there's no right to the China to call that. So therefore, the Indian people, Indian leaders should politically stand up more against to the expansionist policy of China government, or particularly Xi Jinping, who come to power and he tried to provoke strongly against the Indian and his neighbor country.
Sir, I had two questions. Any one of you can answer that. How far is the Tibetan language and culture being impacted under the Chinese rule? And secondly, how far is concern for the Tibetan leadership, especially the native leadership like yours, the growing clout of China in the world of politics? How far it is concerning for voices like you?
See, that's one of our weakness, saying that China is very powerful. We don't understand what is happening inside the China. China's economic conditions totally depend on the public's money. Once the public demanded their money withdrawn there, the Chinese finished of there. And also, if the world trade with the Chinese good stopped, like Indian buying a lot of millions and millions are buying a Chinese good. If we stop this boycotting Chinese good, China will suffer for the economic. So we shouldn't think that, our China is very powerful, China is we should forget this thing. This is totally, we set a big, has a wrong mind in our mind. So China, the Indian is not, 23 Indian is not a 1962 Indians. Indian history, 21st century is 2023 is Indian. So we have a power. The Indian can stand against the China anytime, anywhere. So that another thing, the impact of the Tibetan language and culture to the Chinese people. Now, in 1949, the Chinese communists come to exist. After that, the Buddhism and Tibetan culture, even the China hands are believer of practitioner of the Buddhism, but after 49 is finished, totally finished up, completed, erected. But now since last 5-6 years, there's more than 5 or 6 million Chinese are following Buddhism. So it shows that the Buddhism, peaceful and peaceful, loving kindness in religion or thought or philosophy is been impacting very much to the Chinese people. They are gaining their own religion. They've been practicing for more than 1,000 years before 1949. We respect to the good relation between the India and China, but not sacrifice the Indian border and Tibet border. That's very important. Don't sacrifice for the betterment of the Indian and China, for the friendship of the China Indian. Don't sacrifice Tibet. That will be a big loss in future for the India.
I want to ask you about that Chinese premier, like you said, has shied away from attending the G20 summit, which is going to be held in New Delhi. How do you see that? Do you think that he was apprehensive about the questions of the media clear about the situation in Ladakh on the LAC and the Tibetan questions will be asked, or he should avoid those things? That's why he's not attending, or it can be another reason also.
See, I don't know internally because what is in his mind, but it is totally very good. It's very good that he's not attending the G20 meeting, because in Hindi Kawat he says, मुख से राम 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 बगल में छुरी. They did the same thing in 1962. Chini Hindi Babe. Then they're meeting the breaks with the shaking hand with Modi ji, our leader. But now again, after a week, they release a new map saying that the Arunachal and Sejong and all these are territory. So there's totally, we should not, the Indians should, the world should not, those who are loving peace country and who believes in to the human rights, or who believes in to save the identity and culture of the human being, they should not trust to Chinese government.